What's going on, guys, and welcome back to part 4 of my journey to Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Today I am going to be reviewing Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, the fourth film in the Mission Impossible series, and this is really where this franchise begins to change for the better, because this is quite easily the best movie we've looked at so far, and it remains one of, if not the best film in the Mission Impossible franchise, rivaled only by Fallout, in my opinion. From beginning to end, this film's energy is very palpable, due in part to Michael Giacchino's fantastic music. This goes for the previous film as well, but his score stands out even more so here. It adds a great deal of intensity to several of the action set pieces. And this film was the live-action debut for director Brad Bird, the man responsible for classics such as The Iron Giant, The Incredibles, Ratatouille, you name it. And his experience with animation clearly influenced some of the creative decisions he made on this film, especially in the opening credits sequence, and several of the directorial and editing choices made throughout it. This film is also far more visually distinct than any of the previous ones. Its color palette is quite unique, one of the many things that makes it stand out from every other film in this franchise. And of course, I can't go on without mentioning Simon Pegg. Thank God he became a mainstay of the series following MI3, because this man is a genius. Whenever a scene feels like it isn't fully working, he comes in with his precise comedic timing to elevate it just that much more. Something else worth noting is this is the first and possibly only time in this franchise where Ethan Hunt isn't dragged down by something, whether it be inconsistent character writing or a love interest of some type. The love interests in the first two films were obligatorily shoved in, but Julia in the third did serve a purpose, and she contributed to the story in some way. I do also like Rebecca Ferguson's character, who is introduced in the next film, but in this film, Ethan doesn't have a wife or girlfriend he has to look after, and since Benji fills the role of comedic relief, his personality isn't constantly changing on a dime to fit the script. Funnily enough, he's probably got the least going on of all the characters in this film, but if you ask me, Tom Cruise is doing his best work when he's acting as a vessel for the plot, rather than trying to play a deep, complex character. All the members of Ethan's team in this film also have their own different motivations and reasons for being involved in the mission. In the previous films, aside from Ving Rhames, most of the team members were just kind of there and served their purpose as the generic helicopter pilot or computer expert. Initially, it seems like Jeremy Renner's character is going to fill that role, but they actually pull off a pretty cool subversion and reveal that he's involved because of the guilt he feels over believing that he failed to protect Ethan Hunt's wife. Agent Carter wants revenge on Léa Seydoux' character because she killed her partner at the beginning of the film, and although Benji doesn't have any deeper motivations, he does work excellently as the comic relief. Wrapping up the positive section of this review, you can clearly tell this is when they started to let Tom Cruise go all out and do his thing, because in the previous films, a lot of his stunts weren't fully practical and used a green screen or some tricky editing to achieve the finished result. But in this film, he's hanging off the Burj Khalifa, chasing people through sandstorms, doing parkour through parking garages, and the experience is all the more entertaining because of it. One aspect of this film that I'm mixed on is the idea of their technology malfunctioning. The self-destruct message at the beginning of the film doesn't self-destruct properly. The adhesive gloves that Ethan uses to climb the Burj Khalifa start acting up way too quickly, and their mask-making machine starts breaking down just before they need it most. On one hand, I like this, because it's an incredibly effective way of inciting tension. Without their usual tricks up their sleeves, our characters must improvise and use alternative methods to accomplish their mission. But on the other hand, there isn't really a reason for this happening in the script. You could say it's because the IMF has been disavowed. That's kind of the plot of the whole movie. But the self-destruct tape at the beginning of the film wasn't working before the IMF even got disavowed, so that argument doesn't hold up. This plot device is responsible for some of my favorite scenes in the film, such as the sequence in the Burj Khalifa where Ethan's team splits up and performs two different exchanges with the villains while secretly providing the information to each other that they need in order to proceed successfully. But I kind of wish they'd given a better reason for it than just, oh no, their technology inexplicably stopped working for no reason. I also don't really get the point of Jeremy Renner's character, Agent Brandt. As previously stated, I do appreciate that his character has something deeper going on under the surface, but he feels like a strange inclusion. I understand the real reason for Jeremy Renner being cast is because they wanted to bring him in as a potential replacement for Ethan Hunt as the main protagonist due to the controversies surrounding Tom Cruise at the time, but as we know, that didn't end up happening, and his presence feels unneeded, especially in Rogue Nation, where he's just kind of hanging out because his main character arc is concluded by the end of this film. But if anything, that's something which should be held against the next film, not this one. The worst part of this film is easily the villain side of things. We're introduced to a subplot with this random scientist guy working for the villain whose family is being threatened, and I understand the purpose that serves in showing us how good people can get caught up with the wrong crowd, and it does humanize people we would ordinarily think are pretty terrible by showing us that sometimes they do bad things for the right reasons. It doesn't take up that much time in the film either, but at the end of the day, it seems kind of unnecessary. I find myself questioning a lot of the decisions made by the main villain as well. He goes to Dubai disguised as his own henchman for seemingly no reason, just so he can dramatically reveal himself to Ethan by pulling off his mask. And at the end of the film, he takes a suicide drop off of a car garage and has a comical death scene where he stays alive just long enough to see Ethan foil his plans before he finally dies. Despite those problems, though, this film is still a total blast, and without a doubt the best Mission Impossible movie I've reviewed so far. I can't wait to refresh my opinions on Rogue Nation next month, but as for now, you guys let me know. What do you think of Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol? Do you agree with me that it is one of the best Mission Impossible films, or do you disagree with me and think that it is overrated? Just whatever your thoughts are, please let me know them all in the comments below. And of course, as always, I hope you guys have a great day. Take care.